Hey, we're back with another episode of The Unfair Advantage, and I'm your host, Brad Starnes. Today, I'm excited to be joined by the one and only David Marks, who is the founder behind Quality Auto Repair, Tire, and Auto Sales in Maryland Heights, Missouri. David grew up as an adopted child where he faced feelings of abandonment. He later dealt with a drug and alcohol addiction from ages 16 to 26. Through sheer determination and personal growth, he was able to overcome these obstacles and become a successful entrepreneur. David began his company in his backyard garage and originally focused on servicing vehicles for contractors. He went from $4,000 a month in overhead to over 10 grand a month just overnight. David credits his continued success to strong financial planning and a strong mindset to ensure company growth. But before we dive in, let's not forget that today's episode is sponsored by Screaming Cow Marketing Group, which is your home service marketing agency, helps home service businesses around the U.S. grow their leads through utterly unforgettable marketing experiences. So if you're a business looking for more of the right work to do, call the guys who move. David, welcome on.
Oh, thanks, Brad. I'm excited to be here, and it's been cool to get to know you this year and see you grow, your digital marketing agency. And yeah, man, thanks for having me as your guest, dude. I really appreciate this.
Yeah, absolutely. We've this is an episode we've been trying to record for 2 months. You had some conflicts with sometimes I had some conflicts, and so right before here, like a half hour ago, I'm like, hey, are we good for 15 minutes for now? Because we just been both bouncing back and forth, so it's good to finally have you on. So I kind of went through a quick little high level overview of kind of who you are and everything like that. But why don't you tell us a little bit about what I mentioned, like your auto repair business, but you technically have three. So why don't you give us a little bit of like a high level view of what those three businesses are and how you got to going from no business to three in a matter of a few years?
Yeah, that's a great question. So it's three companies. It's Quality Auto Repair, Tire, and Auto Sales. And then it's Rent to Quality Auto. So what I do is I have a full service auto repair business and we do tires. I'm also a Missouri licensed auto dealer, which is buying and selling used cars. We sell a lot of cars for clients. We also, if somebody wants to sell their car, we could sell it for them. And I got my lease rental license this year through the Missouri Department of Revenue. That's who issues dealer license here in the state of Missouri. And what that allows me to do is do a lease to own program on used cars. That's how we self-finance. That's how I'm self-financing used cars for people, is through the third entity. It's essentially a financing company is what it is. It's the entity that collects the payments on the cars that people are making monthly car payments to us on.
So in that case, you're basically the bank for people who are looking to lease out cars.
Correct. I'm selling money. I'm selling my money.
Okay.
I was taught. I'm going to plug a friend of mine. I'm assuming you've heard of him as Brian Schroeder. He told me, Dave, if you want to make it, sell it.
Yeah.
So essentially, I'm selling money.
Yep.
I'm the bank. I've got 7 people making monthly car payments to me this year so far, and my goal is to get to 12. And I've got the capital to do it. I just got to go out and find them and get them reconned and then get them on the road. But that lease to own program, Brad, as there's me and one other guy doing this in St. Louis. Okay, it's rent to own car centers. They've been around for a long, long time. So a lot of growth in me was I marketed something on Facebook Marketplace that no one else was doing. And it was crazy trying to advertise leasing a used car on Marketplace. You know what, though, as entrepreneurs, that's what we do. We figure it out, because I got 3 on the road now. And two, I think too, Brad, I'm going to pivot back to your question, but I'm calling it audible right now, is the reason I went with this model is because, and I know you run your business just like this is a win for the consumer and the business. Okay. I'm not going to take the time to go all into the features and benefits. Go to, it's RTOLTO.com and it shows all the features and benefits, but this has a lot of features and benefits for consumers as well as me. And that's what business is about, Brad. I know you run your business like that. I run this, but how does it win for the consumer and the business? So I'm going to go back now and answer your real question. I got sidetracked there.
Yeah.
And if I get sidetracked, just, hey, Dave, that's not what we're talking about. It's all good.
You're totally
Because I'm
fine.
like everybody else, man. Go on left field easily, and that's what we do. So yeah, I'm an adoptive child, and I found out a lot later in life that it's very common for individuals in my situation to have some kind of emotional, abandonment wound tied to that. Okay, and the parents that adopted me, dude, they've been the best. They've given me nothing but love and support, and I couldn't have asked for a better situation than in that arena. Okay, it's been a huge blessing, and I learned that there's just that emotional abandonment detachment wound that you got to heal, and you got to know it's there. And I had no idea until actually recently. So the adoption agency that I went through, I was born in 1979, so I'm 45 years old. My biological father was 58, so he's probably dead because he'd be over 100. Okay. My biological mom
Mhm.
was 23. And according to the records that the adoption agency that I went through has, she did not want her family to know that one, I even existed or she was pregnant or anything. She hid it from everybody. Okay, so that's all. So coming into reality, society, or life, or whatever the hell you want to call it, with that built into me, it's like, okay, I'm broken. I'm not good enough, and I don't matter. That's literally the
Right.
mantra, the story that played in my head over and over for years and years. I'll never forget the first time that I felt like I didn't fit in, I didn't belong. Okay, I'm not gonna. If somebody wants to hear the story, call me, and we could spend as much time on the phone. I don't care. But
Yep.
then the first time thinking that, I was about 12. I was like, 12, 13 years old, right? And then as that gets stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger, the first time that somebody says, "Hey, Dave, do you smoke weed?" I said, "Absolutely." Never smoked weed in my life, because I didn't want to feel how I felt. I never wanted to want to be me, right?
Right.
And then, once I smoked pot for the first time, dude, it was off and running, Brad. I mean, I put 110% into getting intoxicated every day. I had to literally be deathly ill not to do that. Dude, I was smoking crack at 17 years old in North St. Louis, doing some bad things, in bad neighborhoods. I remember, I mean, yeah, been there, done it, dude. Snorted cocaine, shot cocaine. If you've been smoking crack all night, the best way to come off that is snort heroin. I guarantee it. Trust me. I'm speaking from experiences. And I did a lot of things during that time period that I really regret. Dude, I ripped off my own grandma. My mom had to have a difficult conversation with me about it. But when people you can call it a disease, whatever. I don't care what you call it. But when you're in that midst and that chaos, that's what you do. Dude, that's what I focused on. I got exactly what I
Yep.
focused on. I focused on how do I get my next drink? How do I get my next high? And I didn't care what I had to do it. And I got it. I did stuff that I'm not going to say on here. If I was caught, I would probably still be in jail. We
Wow.
definitely pulled some stuff, did some stuff I'm not proud of. Okay. And yeah, man. I mean, just those last 2 years, Brad, of using heavy drugs and heavy alcohol, and I mean, shoot cocaine, smoking crack, shooting heroin, snorting heroin, all everything that comes with that or genre. Those last 2 years, Brad, it was a nightmare live in person, and I'm the star actor. Literally, it's like you're living a nightmare every day because eventually people that are in that, it quits working. It worked for a
Mm.
period of time. I'm not going to deny that. I'm going
Yeah.
to honor that and acknowledge that it did work because I didn't want to be me. I didn't want to feel. I didn't like anything about being me. Flat out. Period. I don't know how the hell I graduated high school. I barely graduated high school. And I just thought that at that period of time frame, I'm going to use drugs and alcohol for the rest of my life, and there's nothing I can do about it. And I'm a very spiritual person today. Okay, spirituality is for people that have been to hell and they don't want to go back, and that's me. okay, is I thought God gave me a shitty deck of cards and there was nothing I could do about it. Like, this
Mhm.
is my life. My life is meant to be just feel miserable, and there wasn't anything I could do about it. I literally thought that, if I got really good, I thought if people had material objects and possessions that I wanted, that God was working in their life, and He sure wasn't working in me. And this all stems from that, adoption and abandonment that
Yeah.
nobody knew at the time. My adoptive parents had no clue. Nobody knew. We just didn't know. We didn't know what we didn't know. Okay. And, my adoptive parents actually, they ended up getting divorced when I was about 15 years old. And they didn't do anything intentionally, but just flat out, from 15 on, I had no adult supervision. My friends that had to sneak out of their house in high school, I just walked out the front door and then I would leave and then come home 3 days later. I put my mom through hell. I don't know how the hell she tolerated me or even let me even come home. I mean, dude, my house is the party house
Yeah.
for real, dude. It was out of my house like every day.
Wow.
I mean, we were
Yeah.
snorting cocaine, smoking crack, all that stuff in my mom's basement. Dude, it was a party every day, and man, I'd have
That is,
Friday nights, there'd be a bunch of people, a bunch of alcohol. Oh, it was crazy. So, so eventually what got me sober, Matt, is just family intervention. I never hid my drinking from my family, but I hid my drug
yeah.
use. So they found out, got clean. And that first 6 months of sobriety, Brad, that was a completely different nightmare live in person. Because it's like all that stuff I covered up, I didn't know what to do with it.
Mhm.
I really didn't. It's just, dude, it's a crazy way to live life.
Yeah. And so my next question was going to be, you went 16 to 26 in this phase. So I imagine at 26
Right.
is when that family intervention happened and
Right.
all of that. So I'm so you go from basically your entire life in a way is dedicated to how can I get the next drug? How can I get the next drink? To now all of a sudden families intervened. That's no more. And I imagine that beginning the quality auto company didn't happen until several years later. So in between then, I'm sure there was a period where you're like, what do I do with life at this point? Like, who am I now? What do I do now? Because like I know David Marks, so I know David Marks knows who the hell he is now and who he's meant to
Right.
be in life and all that stuff. But before David Marks beginning to become who he is now, there was probably a period in which like you had no clue what was going on. What was that period of time like?
So that period, I went to AA meetings for 17 years. So before I started my business, I started the business at age like 31, I want to say. I think I was 31 at the time.
Okay.
I went to AA, and really just got clean, and became a decent human being, and I got my stride back, got my confidence back, and, was becoming an adult, Brad. I bought a
Yep.
house 3 years sober. I had a good job. And, that for that time period, life was really, really good for me, actually, and that's what, how I got this business started. It's a quick ass story is I bought a garage
Yeah.
with the house in the front yard. If you look up on Zillow, my garage has more square footage than my house.
Okay.
It really does. That's what I tell people. I bought a garage with a house in the front yard. I was selling auto parts at the time. And the guys that I sold parts for, they're an independent wholesale distributor. They don't sell to the public. They sell to guys like me. They had these delivery trucks. So they knew I used to wrench, and I started doing their delivery trucks evenings and weekends. Did that for about a year and a half, was making really good money. And I don't remember, I've been married and divorced, so I was dating my now ex-wife at the time. And I don't remember so people used to use Craigslist. I don't know if Craigslist is still around. I don't use it. Would put on
Yes, it
Craigslist
is.
their car needs XYZ. And I started replying to these ads and
Mm-hmm.
started getting work. So I'm like, man, I got something here. So I got an LLC, January 2010, we got married a year and a half later. That's when I really went more so towards my backyard gig because I was on her health insurance. And, 3 years in afterwards, people started asking me, "Hey, Dave, do you sell cars or do you know somebody that does?" So I got connected with a guy that has a dealer license that allowed me to use it. Because remember, fixing auto repair and selling cars is illegal in
Two
a
different things.
residential neighborhood. Yeah, in Overland, Missouri. And
Yeah.
I used the small business networking as a way to market my business and posting on Craigslist. Okay, because Facebook wasn't what it is today. I didn't know anything about Google or SEO or none of that. So it was a lot of guerrilla marketing to market an illegal backyard business. I spent 9 years in my backyard garage and I got 3 tickets from the city of Overland, not from my neighbors, as they just happened to drive by and go, "What the hell's going on here?" And gave me a ticket. But I that didn't stop me because I believed in myself. I believed in what I was doing, and I wasn't screwing anybody. I knew I was being honest. So, the city can kiss my ass. That's what my mentality was.
Yep.
And then,
Yeah.
a big turning point for me, Brad, is after I got divorced. That's a whole other story. I'm not going to take that time there. Is I wanted to get out of my backyard garage. I wanted a real business. I didn't want to be a backyard mechanic. I want to be a business owner. So I went to the banks, and after getting told no 4 times, because they look at my financials like they're Egyptian hieroglyphics. Literally, I didn't know shit about business. And, I found out my
Yeah.
ex-wife, who had an MBA, didn't know nothing about it either because she had my financials all screwed up. She didn't have anything where it was supposed to go. I got connected with an organization called SCORE. It's a nationwide organization. It stands for Society Corps of Retired Executives. It's a free mentorship program that is affiliated with the SBA. And they just have resources flat out? It's hard to get anywhere else. And I got connected with a gentleman named Gary Deacon, who was my SBA mentor. And he owned Central States Bus Sales. He had 3 bus dealerships in 3 states. Very, very, very successful. I haven't met anybody smarter when it comes to an income statement, a balance sheet, and a cash flow than that guy. And we would just meet once a week for an hour, and he taught me business. He taught me this is how you put together an income statement. This is how you do a balance sheet. And because he was in my space, he taught me how to set up my financials, because banks, based on the industry and the business, are going to expect the financials are set up a certain way. And he really
Right.
helped me with that, right? Taught me how to do this. And I didn't pay a penny for this. Okay. Now, Brad, I know we were huge believers in the law of attraction. And dude, at the time, I didn't
Yep.
really realize that I was working the law of attraction until later on. And I got more educated about it because this all predates me in the personal development, entrepreneurial space where we work with coaches. Okay. I didn't know nothing about any of this. So,
Right.
this is my belief on the law of attraction, Brad, is, I was very clear on what I wanted. I wanted a business, an auto repair and sales business in Maryland Heights. Okay. And I believed that I could do it. And Gary was a huge help in that because he kept telling me, "I believe you can do it. I could believe you can do it." Because again, Brad, I grew up low self-esteem, low self-worth, not believing in myself, so this is part of that process is retraining my thoughts that, I can't have it. I would sit on my deck every day at my house and tell myself, talk into my phone, I believe I will have a 3-bay auto repair and sales business in Maryland Heights every day for 10 minutes while I'm working with Gary too. Okay. So, try to make a long story short is I had a line of credit with U.S. Bank. This is how the law of attraction works, everybody. This is very important. I want everybody to listen. Long story short, the bank closed my line of credit, right? And I went back into the bank. This was in 2018, by the way, right? Freaking out. What am I going to do? So, I talked to a bank. Oh, I went from a line of credit of 15K to 50K. Okay. And the place that I'm in right now, I was talking to the landlord about, and me and Gary were working on a business plan, right? To figure out what it took to get into this space. Okay. So I get introduced to another bank at U.S. Bank. He goes, "Oh, you're pre-qualified for a $48,000 loan for working capital. and $150,000 for new equipment to get your business going. And I was like, what? Okay. The reason the law of attraction gave that to me, okay, is because I did everything Gary told me to. Okay.
Yep.
Because what the law of attraction, dude, it's called the law for a reason, because it is the law. It's the judge, jury, sheriff, all that wrapped up in one. Because, the law, I would ask Gary questions because the law of attraction respects that and it rewards that. I didn't question Gary, not one time.
Mm-hmm.
If he said jump, I said, how do you want me to jump? How high and how many times? I would ask that.
Yep.
And even during that process, Brad, before the bank started funding checks, I didn't stop doing the work. I didn't say, whoop, I'm done. I don't have to do anything else. No, I kept doing the work, and doing the work was working with Gary and doing exactly what Gary told me to do. I did everything that man told me to do. And you know what? I got my money. I moved my business from my backyard to what I have today. Because, dude, I literally took a warehouse, split it in half, and built a shop from scratch. If you looked at my building, and I still have pictures of this, of what it looked like beforehand, it didn't look like what it's today. I didn't buy something move-in ready. No, I built it. And it's because the law of attraction rewarded me because I knew what I wanted. I believed I could have it, and I did the work. And the work was doing everything Gary told me to do and not questioning it. Brad, I'm not going to lie to myself. It's a challenge to replicate that today. It's like, how do I replicate that today and take it to a whole nother level? But that's how I made the leap from my backyard to brick and mortar. It's law because my financials aren't what they were today, and the bank didn't ask for any financials back then, none. And I would go to Todd, the banker, and here's my business plan. We're working on this. We're working on this. We're working on this. I kept doing the work. I didn't just rest on my laurels and go, I got it. I have arrived. Yay! No. If I would have done that, the law of attraction would have ripped the carpet underneath me, and I'd be up shit creek without a paddle.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Well, and that was 2018, which is a completely different market than what we're in now. Mm-hmm. So I'm sure even just the market itself had a little bit of play of like, I imagine with what you and I have talked through and like some of the plans for your business and growth and everything, I imagine it's a lot harder to get funding now than it was in 2018 having so much more revenue and all of that than you had back then.
Well, it was mid-Trump, too. So I opened up, I'm just going to flat out say it was mid-Trump. The money was flowing. The guy had the money flowing. It was flat out. The money was flowing. It was. So it was a great time period. So I opened up my brick and mortar. April 2019 was when he officially opened up. And, one of the things, Brad, is when COVID hit, and my business stopped. I just remember I didn't have any employees. I had like a part-timer, I guess. It's I've got 3 awesome right now. I did, because I opened that place up by myself, Brad. I literally in my backyard garage, my overhead was $4,000 a month. And then when I opened that brick and mortar, it went to $10K. That was before I made a penny overnight. The day I opened it up, wow. I'm responsible for $10K a month, and that's before I pay. You know what? No, I take that back. I think me and Gary had a small salary for me because one thing I've done is I got a cheap house payment. My house payment's like $680 a month, and the only reason it's gone up because property taxes are going up.
I wish,
but dude, I've been in my house though for I don't know 15 years now. I think a long time, and but that's a whole other conversation. We're not going to spend the time to that. I think we had a little bit. I don't remember if we had a small salary for me built into that or not. I'm pretty sure we did. Yeah. I'm pretty sure we did because I remember we came up with my break even, and I remember my break even was like $10,000. I imagine what I did with Gary because the dude, I haven't met him. There's one other guy that I've met that's as smart as him when it comes to this, but Brad, he just takes this to a whole nother level. Super confident. Yeah. He sold his business for millions and millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars. Very, very successful. And he's one of the most influential people in my life. He really is. But yeah, I was going from 4K to 10K, overnight. And dude, I got to make it work. I remember standing out at the space when the business shut down. It's like, this isn't going to stop me. Nope, I'm going to make it. I'm going to make it, and I've made it, I mean, 5 years in a retail
Yeah.
location, more than that. Most businesses, the statistics say I'm in the minority that make it, especially doing what I'm doing. In the minority,
Yep.
big time.
Yep. Yeah. Well, I mean,
So,
my first business failed after 18 months. And so,
yeah.
yeah, I mean, they say that in the first 5 years, what, like 90% of business owners
Yeah,
actually
if you
close
follow
up
Michael
in the
Gerber,
first 5 years, something like that.
it's what Michael Gerber says. He wrote the book,
Yeah.
The E-Myth, which is, dude, I read that book. I was about 6 years in. One of the best books I ever read. I've given that book to people when they start. I say,
Hmm.
read it now and then wait 5 years and read it
Yeah.
again. You're going to go, holy wow. I mean, it made so much sense at that time period, Brad. I think Michael Gerber says in the first
Yeah.
5 years,
Yep.
80% of the businesses fail. And from years 5 to 10, 80% of those businesses fail. It's scary. I
Yep.
don't quote me on that or hold me on that, but I'm pretty sure that's Michael Gerber's statistics on that. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, well. If it's not his, I know it's in his book because I just got done reading the E Myth within the last, I'd say, 4 months, and I was looking behind me because I have two like bookshelves of books right now that like the left side are like these books were great. I learned a ton out of them, that kind of stuff. It's like a 2 by 2 cube, and then I have one section of the cube that's like these are the books that like you should go back and read at least once a year, and the E-Myth is sitting in that cube. That
Oh,
Buy Back Your Time, um, No More Mr. Nice Guy. Like, those are three that are in that cube because they were like these three books had so much impact on me that it was like I need to make sure that I'm going back and reading these, not just this one time. Like I need to go back and go
right.
back. So that's on my list for those, and I know
Love it.
100% that that was in his book. So um, 2018, you go and you have this line of credit. You now have the loan to go out and buy your equipment, all that stuff, and it's just you. You have from 4 grand to 10 grand a month in overhead. It sounds like just from reading between the lines of how intelligent Gary is, that you probably did pay yourself something. That's one lesson I learned from the last business was I didn't pay myself anything. I was doing what I'm doing now as a side hustle to help keep the lights on while I was running this other business. And so that's like when I went in full time this business, I was like, I'm paying myself something. I don't care what it is. I'm paying
Right.
myself something because that was one of the mistakes from the last one. But so you've gone from, I'm going to say nothing to something in a very short period of time. Whenever you opened up the brick and mortar, it was just yourself. And you touched on it at the about halfway through on like at the time you're doing Craigslist, all that stuff. Facebook wasn't what it is now. But you talked about like SEO, Google ads, Facebook ads, all that stuff. You and I have obviously talked like our agency, we niche down, we work with home service companies. Like that is who we work with. Every once in a while, we'll bring in like a attorney, an accountant, CPA, somebody who's in a service industry, but not home service. But like automotive, thanks to you, I've learned don't touch. And you work with an agency who is like exclusive to automotive and like they are niche down on automotive. So if you don't mind, can you kind of share everybody that I talk to, anybody who's a business owner that they hear like, oh, you got to go run ads on Google. Oh, you got to go do SEO. Oh, you got to go do this. And it's not a one size fits all approach, right? And it's like, and there's a different strategy to how it works for each different business and all of that. So how have those helped and hurt your business over the last couple of years, especially after you opened up that retail location and you were like, I just got to figure out what's going to work and what's going to get me from point A to point B.
Yeah, I networked my business out of my backyard to brick and mortar. I did all those little small business networking groups, BNI.
Mm-hmm.
I'm heavily involved with the Maryland Heights Chamber of Commerce, and there's a couple other small ones. It's just a natural fit for me. I tell people I use that small business networking because referrals are the best resource. Referrals are our best customers. I don't care what business you're in. You can't beat a referral.
Yeah.
I didn't start using Google as a marketing stream till I was like 2 years into brick and mortar. I think it was 2020, late 2021, I want to say. And up until that time,
Okay.
I didn't use it because honestly, Brad, I didn't believe in it. And the reason I didn't believe in it is because, dude, I
Yep.
don't use Google. I know a lot of people It's if I need anything, I just make a phone call. I've just ingrained myself so
Yep.
hard, so much in the small business networking scene in the St. Louis. I tell people, I Google where do I buy a blender. So I'm thinking to myself, if people that are on Google, they don't have a big network of people, so I don't want them as customers because I'm not going to get any referrals out of them. And that's true to a degree. Okay, I'm not going to and we still need Google because Google is my number one revenue generator, just flat out. I had no idea people Google what we do thousands, hundreds of thousands of millions of times a day. I just didn't know because I don't Google nothing.
Yep.
I Google directions or restaurants near me. If I need a service, dude, I make a phone call because I know somebody. I just know that many people. It's
Yep.
scary how many people I know.
Yep.
And I still do it today because
It
it
is all
works.
in here.
Well, it used
Yep.
to be in here before those things were what they were today. I'm old enough to remember that. And it's crazy. I am. I'm not going to go down memory lane with phones. So what I've learned, Brad, is so our point of sale system and my digital market, I'm a plugin. They're called Kakui. They're automotive space. They integrate with my point of sale system. Okay. So what we do, this is everybody listening. Listen. This is mission critical. Let's say I get a customer for the Maryland Heights Chamber of Commerce, right? I enter them in our POS system as MHCC, right? They refer me to their neighbor. I enter their neighbor in as Maryland Heights Chamber of Commerce. I do that, and I keep doing that, because then I can pull a report off my POS system and know exactly how much revenue I've generated from all these different sources. Dude, it's the best way to do it. And I'm
Yep.
dumbfounded how I find very few people do that. I've told so many people, like, oh my God, I never thought of it. I've had people argue that with me. I'm like, okay, whatever. Good luck figuring out.
Yep. 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 Yeah, 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 and it's like what we do in our CRM is we have a primary and a secondary source of like where a contact came from. So if in that case the contact came from Google and then they refer another home service business, in our case, we have it in that new person's profile that hey, the primary source was from Google, but they actually the secondaries that came from a referral from whoever the like we tag who the person was because we actually pay out like $500 in most cases for referrals that get sent to us. And so like I always try to track, I'm like, how much money have I given to this person? Because I want to keep giving them more kind of thing. But it's like, if I didn't do, yeah. And it's like, but it's like, if I didn't find that lead through Google or through Facebook or whatever, I wouldn't have gotten all of these other like referrals and everything from there. And so it's super, super important to track that and to track the not just like the leads, but as you're talking about the closing ratio and all that stuff, but how much revenue came out of it too. That's one thing we have. We use like a call tracking dashboard that has where our clients can go and enter in like the estimated value of a quote they send out, the sales value, all that stuff. I'm telling you, I burn several $100s a month on this software. And no matter how much we can try to ask our clients to do it, most of them don't use it. And it's like, guys, like we're trying to have these conversations of cash in versus cash out. And if you aren't entering in this data, we can't have that conversation. And it's like if you are burning 2 grand a month and let's say ads on Google or on Facebook, and you're not earning at least 3 to 4x that minimum on those ads over time, you should be cutting what you are spending on that. And so if you aren't tracking revenue with this as well, then like you are basically just like taking money and taking a lighter and just lighting it on fire and just burning money because you aren't looking at it from like every point of view. Like we track, it's probably irritating to some of my clients. We track like everything because of the fact that like you need to know exactly what source things come from and your closing ratios and all of those things. Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So we are getting close on time here, David. So I want to be respectful of your day and all of that. But so we've talked a lot of going through the journey from we could you and I have had all kinds of conversations, and so we've gone through the journey of like going through adoption to drug and alcohol abuse to then opening up your business in your backyard or in your garage that happen to have a house in front of it. We talked through, and then obviously now going through kind of like your current growth of the business and all that stuff. If I always like to kind of tie these up and say, going back to the unfair advantage, if there's somebody who's listening to this and they have gone through what you've gone through, they are somebody who went through adoption and felt that feeling of like I wasn't worth something or I wasn't a part of something, or they've gone through the aspect of like battling drug and alcohol abuse and they're trying to get out of it, or they're in those 6 months. You said that's a nightmare alone. Like once you finally like draw the line of I'm not doing this anymore. What's the advice that you could give to those individuals? Yeah, yeah, right. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, David, we will make sure to get everything in the notes on the show of how people can get in touch with you, your website URL. I'll even drop like information for your Facebook and all that. So people want to reach out, have questions, anything along those lines, they can. But David, thanks again for hopping on today. This was a great conversation. As always, I enjoy having the conversations that we have together. But for our listeners, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave us a 5-star review so we can continue to produce more episodes like this. And please make sure you share this episode online and tag our guest so we can get more exposure to what he's doing at Quality Auto Tire Repair and Auto Sales. I'm sure I messed that up, David. But until next time, this is your unfair advantage. That's all right. That's all right. But until next time, this is your unfair advantage.